Live from the Regis Suites in Phoenix, Arizona, you're listening to Breakthrough Thinking. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm Dave Isaac, the host of Breakthrough Thinking. And if it's the second Monday and Tuesday of each month, from 3 to 4, it is Understanding Autism, starring Paul Loudon and Kimberly Isaac. Guys, all right.
Hi.
This is great, Paul, all the way from Houston, Texas. I love saying that. And how was the flight?
It was pretty good. I had an empty seat next to me, which is always nice.
Oh, that is good.
It's pretty rare these days.
No, I was going to say, I never get that.
Wow, me neither.
I look a bit scruffy. People always pick me last.
Oh, see, that might be the trick.
No, if there's an empty seat on a plane, it's the one next to me. It's.
That is so good. This is a special show today because Paul has been chosen, and I should let you describe how that process went, to try out what's called Google Glass. And maybe a lot of listeners don't know what that is, but Paul, why don't you describe what it is and how did you have the honor to be able to test this out for Google?
Well, Google Glass is one of the world's first wearable computing devices. It's, I'm not sure if I should call it a headset or what, but it's a display that is visible when you look up and to the right, attached to a computer that is built into a glasses frame. And the computer has Wi-Fi and can communicate with your phone or with the internet over Wi-Fi and can do a variety of actions. And because it's a computer, it can be expanded with applications to do even more. So Google created this thing, Google Glass, and decided that they wanted to start by introducing it via a lot of people in a lot of different walks of life to sort of see where it can fit in and what uses people can find for it and what problems they can find while trying to incorporate it into their everyday lives. So they did a program called If I Had Glass. And what this program was is that you had to write in 50 words or less, so very short, what you would do if you had Google Glass. And you were also allowed to include images and stuff, but I'm not a very visual person, so I didn't include images or video. But I think the video had to be 10 seconds or 15 seconds or less anyway. So I wrote a short thing talking about our radio show here, Understanding Autism, and how if I had Google Glass, I would use it to try to explore how it might help those on the autism spectrum, as well as talking with people when I got the opportunity and looking for how it might help providers of therapy who were seeking to use it as a tool, a therapeutic tool for those on the autism spectrum. So Google decided that I was one of 8,000 people who applied who would have the chance to buy this Explorer Edition, the basically prototype Google Glass, and take it out in the world and see what we can do with it.
That is fantastic. I mean, when you wrote this 50 words or less, did you think you would be one of the ones chosen?
Honestly, no. When I wrote it, I was absolutely certain that with the sheer number of people doing it and the sheer variety of applications that were going to be out there, that odds were good that, the people reading it, I doubted that it was going to be like, one or two people reading all the applications, that they'd probably have a couple dozen because of the sheer number of people doing it. And that because mine was simple, it didn't have any multimedia things, that because I didn't really have a big internet presence or anything, that Google would decide, whoever read mine would decide that, hey, there's probably a better autism person, that one of the other people have or something, that, maybe Temple Grandin or some big name in relating to autism. I can't remember his first name, Baron Cohen.
Oh, okay.
What's his first name? Dr. Baron Cohen? Do you know?
I'm not sure what you...
He's an autism researcher?
Yeah.
What's his first name?
I think it's...
Simon.
Oh.
Okay. It's see,
I thought you were referring... I got confused. Okay.
Well, there's the actor Sacha Baron Cohen, and so my brain kept going to Sasha, and I'm like, I know it's not him. They're brothers, by the way, which is...
They are?
Yeah. So one of the more famous autism
famous autism researchers, brothers.
So I didn't know.
Yeah, it's true. They're brothers.
Huh.
Yeah. So anyway, Simon Baron. So I figured someone, one of these known names out there would be, would have an application for Google Glass and they'd get selected. So I thought I was really lucky when I got selected.
Wow, that's incredible. You're right. That's not a large population of
Well,
people getting selected.
Yeah, when you think about it, it's 8,000 people got selected for this If I Had Glass, and then another 2,000 were allowed to buy Glass as developers about a year before at a Google conference. So there are 10,000 out there. There's a little more than that because Google's now approached some school film programs and offered other opportunities for people to Google Glass, but probably no more than 12,000. And I did the math. With 10,000 of them out there, if they were evenly distributed across the United States, there would be 70 in the entire Houston city.
Oh,
70.
phenomenal.
And that's the fourth biggest city in the United States.
And congratulations.
So not many of them in that area.
Now, my understanding is, correct me if I'm wrong, you flew down in the Bay Area to Google to do some training with this?
Yeah, what they do is when you get accepted, they contact you because you purchase it from them. So they contact you to see, are you still sure you want to buy this? And then you have to fly yourself down there. And what they do is they have 3 locations where they it's almost like a little boutique store. They've set them up very nicely. And you're greeted. They have like a snack bar with some cheese and crackers and things to eat and a nice couch and area to wait. They have glass in a few different colors. You tell them in advance which color you want, but you can make a decision at the last minute to change your mind. And then you have a personal a guide. They call them glass guides, who comes out and they help you fit the glass on the bridge of your nose properly and explain to you the functions of it, how to use it to call people, help you set it up with the Wi-Fi and with the Bluetooth on your phone, make sure everything's working, show you how to take pictures with it and the voice commands and everything. So you get just sort of a basic overview training. It's not particularly in-depth, but because glass is pretty much designed to be simple to use, it's not really that hard. I mean, just for our audience, earlier today, I had lunch with Dave and Kim and the rest of us here, and they all tried on glass and saw that it's really not that hard to use, that most of it is sort of semi-self-explanatory, that you can figure out with a little experimentation, oh, you can do this with it.
Yeah, I thought it was really user-friendly. I mean, I tried it, for a few minutes, but phenomenal, and we'll get Kim's experience later as well with this Google Glass. Do you think that's going to be what it's called eventually? Or will it be some tricky thing like iPhone with Siri? Is that her name?
Siri.
Whatever her name. Oh, no wonder she doesn't answer. I've been calling her the wrong name all these years. But I mean, it's similar. You think there'll be some fancy name for it, or just hey, Glass?
I think that it's going to be Glass all along. That they've already got a logo and some branding on it. When you get Glass, it comes in a really nice box and a bag that has the Glass logo on it and everything. And they've, I think that. That really, whereas Siri attempts to be a personal assistant in the sense of, you feel like you're communicating with someone, I think the idea behind Glass, in a large part, is to try to remove the barriers of this virtual person. That while you're talking, you're not supposed to be thinking necessarily about who you're talking to or whatever. It's just sort of a general request out there, like, take a note or make a call to, and then it just happens. That you're supposed to forget that there's technology between you and the action that you want to do.
And, when I tried it, we were asking it questions, Google, a certain address, directions, certain definitions, different languages. Mm-hmm. It seems to me it's just an easy access resource where, like if you're in a foreign country, if you don't really speak the language very well, you can ask it to say, how do you say something in English, something that if you speak English, into a certain foreign language. Mm-hmm. And that could mean easy access resources to get around, for example, to be able to communicate your message to someone in a foreign country. That seems
like a wide variety of access to, kind of like, the web is sort of that, but to bring it to something so portable and just right there.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of the idea behind ubiquitous computing that's always there with us and always involved in what we're doing, is that all of this information on the internet, it's stuff that we find ourselves looking up a lot. And until recently, we didn't have access to this information. So we lived our lives without it. But now we're used to being able to just Google the answer to a question. And there's all kinds of questions, when was some building built, or how do I get to someplace, or where's the nearest Thai food, or, how do I say this in this language, or even simple things like what's 87% of 103. And, we're now able to look them up on our phone, but that actually slows us down, because in the past, if you didn't know the answer, you just go on without it. But now we stop, we look up the answer, and then we go on, and it sort of impedes our day in a way, because we spend so much of our time looking up the answers to these. And when you create a device like this that can get the answer to that hands-free via voice command while you're still doing whatever you're doing, it doesn't interrupt your flow in the same way that it did before. If you wanted to look up, maybe you're in the kitchen trying to mix something and you are missing an ingredient and you want to look up an alternative for that ingredient, then you could ask Glass, what's an alternative for, flour? and see if it, can find something for you while you're continuing to do what you're doing. Or maybe, you have a problem repairing your car, and you can have Glass look up instructions for replacing the radiator in a 1983 280ZX, and it pulls up, a website that has instructions for it while your hands are, covered in oil and you're digging in your car, so you don't have to smear oil all over your smartphone screen. So it gives you access to this information in a more direct and immediate way.
So describe what it looks like, describe the functions that you've noticed so far, and describe what you think has really been useful.
Well, what it looks like, I think, to other people while I'm wearing it is a Bluetooth headset that keeps going forward from the ear and wraps around a little bit above the side of my face. You can wear it with or without glasses. I wear it over my glasses, but it's really designed at the moment to be worn without glasses.
I'm going to post some more pictures on our Facebook.
Yeah. So, and what it provides for me as the user is has a microphone to pick up what I say, a bone conduction speaker to read responses to me, and a small screen that's remarkably tiny. The screen is probably about the size of the fingernail on your pinky, but is DVD quality. It has the same number of pixels as a DVD picture. And Google says that it's like looking at a 25-inch screen from 8 feet away. And I'm not sure if I'd argue about them, but that is approximately the focal distance. So if you're nearsighted, you will need glasses between you and it, despite the fact that it's quite close to your face, because the focal distance is further away. So it's designed not to give eye strain to people with normal focus. And what it does right now is it has basically a list of voice commands that you can give it. And they are Google, where you can have it perform a Google search. And depending on what kind of search it is, you can have it look up stuff. And if it can get an informational result, just a quick, immediate answer, it'll usually read the answer to you. Otherwise, it'll present you with a list of results, and you can browse those web pages or view more text or detail. It can receive and send emails. Again, you dictate them by text or have them read to you. It can make a phone call, and you can use it as a Bluetooth headset, so I could have it make a call to someone and speak to them, and they could speak back to me. It can send and receive text messages. It can take pictures and video and post them to various social networks like Facebook or Google+. Any pictures it takes will also automatically back up to your Google account at night when you charge it. It can get directions to places and provide navigation, so it'll read navigation to you while you're driving. Through Evernote, it can take a note so that you can set basic notes and reminders for yourself. If you're using Google Calendar, it will have access to your Google Calendar and show you upcoming events and give you reminders when you've asked it to give you reminders. And using the Google Now service, it will have a general, if you've enabled it, it will have a general awareness of what you've been researching on the internet recently and where you've been recently, and try to keep you aware of, for example, it knew that I was a fan of the author Warren Ellis, and recently the movie Red 2 came out. And so a few days before Red 2, Glass just popped up a reminder saying, hey, we think you might be interested in Red 2. Did you know it's coming out soon? So because of my habits and the fact that I'd let it be aware of my habits, it decided to proactively provide information to you. And that's sort of what Google's going for with this, is they really want to provide a more proactive service, where traditionally a lot of electronics are reactive, where you ask them for something and then they provide you with that information. Google with Glass is trying to be more proactive, where what you've made available to it helps you predict what information you're going to need, and Glass then presents that information to you when you want it, without that weight of saying, hey, go look this up.
So it sounds to me, beyond the personal assistant, it sounds like it's also just an extension of your thoughts in a way.
In a way, that's sort of what they're going for, is that it's supplemental to the kind of stuff you're already doing. That if you're likely to want to look something up, maybe it's already looked it up for you. If you, for example, when I landed here in Phoenix, the last several times I've been to Phoenix, I often go to the Cracker Barrel for dinner. There have been 2 hotels that I've stayed at, and then there have been 1 place where I give presentations at. And so when I landed here in Phoenix, Glass had those 4 addresses, the last 2 hotels I've been at, the place where I almost always eat dinner on the first night, or until recently, and that church that I did the presentation at. And it had those 4 things sitting there and said, which one of these are you going to?
So are you saying that you didn't request it?
I didn't request it.
And it knew when you were in Phoenix?
It knew when I was in Phoenix. This morning when I woke up, it had directions to here waiting for me, because it knew that I was probably going to want to come here later today.
Oh, that is incredible. Really?
So,
and this is just in an infant stage.
Very much so. This is early states.
So I think towards the end of the show, we could talk about even great possibilities, what you see. But
I see many possibilities and that's sort of the point of us explorers is seeing, what its potential is and what it could do.
That is just remarkable. I think now, from your perspective, before we get into more, and then we'll take a quick break, is this something a select audience that Google's going for? Is it going to be the mass population? What's your opinion right now as it stands?
I think Google's intent is for this to be something that's helpful to everybody. And I think that if they keep working on it, it really will be. That this will be something that one day everyone is going to have some sort of device. It may not have the screen. It may just look like a Bluetooth headset and read things into their ear. But everyone's going to have some sort of device that means that they're not having to poke at their phone or anything, but rather can just communicate with it verbally and say, hey, look this up for me. Hey, remind me to do this. Hey, what is this?
So what you're saying, and then why don't we take a break, but as I go into this break, what you're saying, when you're on a date, it'll give new meaning to look into my eyes. Okay, this is breakthrough thinking, understanding autism. We're talking about Google Glass. We have Paul Loudon, of course, to start, along with Kimberly Isaac of Understanding Autism. He was one of the chosen people to be able to explore Google Glass. Most fascinating. We'll come back right after these words. And welcome back again. You're listening to Breakthrough Thinking live from the Regis Suites in Phoenix, Arizona. And of course, if it is the second Monday and Tuesday of the month from 3 to 4, it's Understanding Autism, starring Paul Loudon and Kimberly Isaac. And we are looking at Google Glass. Paul Loudon had the honor and opportunity to explore Google Glass in its early stages, and we're discussing that right now. Of course, if you want to hear the replay in the beginning, if you missed the definition and some of the things we went over, you can always go to breakradioshow.com, archives as well as your Facebook. Is that correct?
Right now, with our movement to a new website, we're actually not.
Okay.
Our archives are hit and miss at the moment, but we're working on that.
They will be there.
They will be there at some point, and that'll be at understanding-autism.info. That's where our website is now, and as we bring more of our archives back online, they'll be available through that site.
Very, very cool. Now, let's talk about really how you had this opportunity. You had written to Google. What was it, like a contest or like a similar contest, right?
I don't know. I mean, it doesn't feel like much of a contest when you're buying something if you win rather than being given something. So, yeah, application. I'd say it was an application for an opportunity.
And you talked about how it could impact people on the autism spectrum.
I didn't even have a chance to talk about how. I just said I would think about how. That's all I told them is I said, if I had this, I would look at it and try to figure out how I think you could use it. And they were like, well, that's good enough.
So let's talk about that. You've used it for a while now. What, about a month?
About a month.
Yeah.
Just 1 month. I got it a month ago Thursday because I got it right after our last radio show.
So Christmas came early.
Something like that, yeah.
Yes. And so tell us a little bit where you think the possibilities are, and we can have a little dialogue about that, how this can be used for people on the spectrum.
Well, to me right now, I see two core areas on the spectrum where it could prove beneficial. There's the concept of executive function, which is sort of that inner voice, that inner thought process that helps you manage your life and keep things in order, remembering that I need to go do this on a regular schedule, remembering just the idea maybe I need fresh milk or whatever, sort of just self-management in general. And the other one is episodic memory. And that is how we experience our memories and how we connect to our memories. The idea of going back into past memories and having an emotional connection with those memories, rather than just seeing them as a third party, actually diving into them and sort of re-experiencing them and being able to compare your emotional state then with your emotional state now. And in both of those areas, I can see Glass as providing some opportunities to really reinforce the areas where someone on the autism spectrum may have weaknesses that normal people may not have or may not have as significantly as the person on the spectrum. So in executive function, what you've got with Glass is something that, with proper programming, could, as you mentioned earlier, serve as a personal assistant. Now, the cool thing about Glass is that it knows your calendar, it knows what information you give it, it has a camera, it has GPS, and it has voice monitoring. So so someone on the autism spectrum could have software running on it that maybe does voice monitoring 24/7 and listens for certain types of phrases and stuff. So maybe as a person on the autism spectrum, I want it to record anything I say when I'm talking with people and what they say in response. So it just listens and doesn't pick up anything until I start talking. And then maybe it goes back and has a buffer so it can record a little bit earlier in case I'm responding to someone. And then everything that's said until the conversation ends. And so then at the end of the day, it could provide me a text transcript of it and maybe even look for dates, times, and locations and try to say, hey, you agreed to do this at this time. Do you want me to add this to your calendar? So things that I might forget, passing conversations or whatever, it's creating a log of these sort of events in my life. But it could also, for example, keep track of my shopping list, where every time I'm buying things, I look down at the barcodes and it keeps them in. And so it knows I last bought milk, a week ago. So it could tell me, hey, your milk is a week old at this point. Do you still have milk or do you want me to add it to your shopping list? Or if I'm at the grocery store, it says, hey, while you're at the store, I see milk isn't on your shopping list. Your milk is a week old. So it can be aware of what I'm doing and where I am at and offer reminders or suggestions. Maybe it sees me out near the bank and says, hey, you're near the bank. You haven't been near the bank in over 2 months. Do you have any checks that you need to deposit while you're here? So just sort of reminders about the kind of thing that you might do in day-to-day life. But because someone on the autism spectrum doesn't often connect one activity with another. So I might drive by the bank and not even recognize that I'm driving by the bank or by the post office and that there are things that I need to do there because in my mind, I am going to see Jason. He and I are going to hang out in a few hours and I'm driving to his house or something. So connecting these disparate ideas and being aware of all the different things going on rather than just the one focused task you're involved in is something that technology could sort of help you with and provide reminders of different scales and in different ways. If you're working with a therapist, you could decide to allow them access to certain things and help them, be more involved in knowing what happens and what goes on in your day-to-day life. So in terms of executive function, it could provide these sort of personal assistant functions that can help you with this sort of thing. On top of that, like I said, with episodic memory, it has a camera and a microphone. It can record video, audio, and pictures of your day-to-day life. But what's unique about this is where taking a picture of something is a very conscious action in the sense normally where you have to pull something out of your pocket, fiddle with it, line up a shot, and take the picture. With glass, it takes a picture of what you're looking at the time. It is a single button press, and you have a picture of what you see. And so with that, glass allows you the opportunity to take pictures with a lower barrier of effort. You don't have to do as much to take the picture. You don't have to frame it or anything like that. You just get what you're looking at. But also that the pictures are from your perspective. They aren't a picture that was framed, but rather they're a snapshot of what you saw. So in going back and looking at them, you have possibly the GPS location where it happened and the time of day where it happened if these are recorded in the photo. But you also have a photo that is as personal of an experience as you can make it because it's what you saw. And so this provides the opportunity for creating timelines of events that happen and memories that happened that are presented to you in a way that might make it easier to go back in and reconnect with them, especially if you have a guide or a therapist who's helping you reintegrate these memories and reinforce your connection to them.
There's a couple of things. This is really interesting. And let me start with the video, what you're looking at from your perspective. Taking it a little bit outside the autism application, could there be live streaming, not just a video, but feeding into a live stream? And if they can do that at some point, unless they do it now, maybe this also changed the detective work, police. It may create more safety for people just in parking lots. Is that possible?
Well, actually, when you asked me what it can do, I forgot a feature because you can already make video calls with it. So I could call someone else with glass, and they could see what I see, and I could see what they see. Or I could call anyone who's on Google+, and I think anyone who has Gmail. And as long as they're at their computer, they could then have a stream of what I see, and then I could see what their webcam sees. So I'd see their face, but they'd see what I'm looking at. So maybe I'm trying to fix my car, and I give a call to my dad and say, hey, this is what I'm seeing in my car. Do you see anything here that I'm missing? And It shares basically what I'm seeing with another person.
Oh, I think these applications can be awesome.
And that sort of ties into what I was thinking would be useful on the therapeutic side, is that it's, especially when they adapt it into glasses frames and make it lower profile, that a therapist who's working with a child with autism, rather than having a camera set up conspicuously or having to hold the camera, they're wearing a camera that sees what they do. So if they want the parents to see their interactions with the child, but they don't want the parents in the room, you've got a wearable, low-profile camera that can then share your viewpoint with a kid, with the parents. Or maybe, the parents want to share an experience they're having with their kid with a therapist. And so this provides a wearable camera. It's just a wearable camera in those senses, but it's a wearable camera that can share the experiences in ways that we can't really do with other technology at the moment. I mean, there's nothing inherently special about a wearable camera in the sense that, we could have done that 10 years ago. But this is really the first time where we've got something like this.
That's just incredible. Kim, question for you. Paul also mentioned it could help people on the spectrum, reminders. You're driving by a bank, for example. Did you forget to deposit something, or do you have any checks to deposit, or even withdrawals, maybe at a grocery store, those type of things that Paul was suggesting. These reinforcements, from a therapeutic side, will this help? It's almost 24/7 reinforcements. How does that help someone on the spectrum?
Well, I think it could potentially help some people significantly, because a lot of times people on the spectrum, they're either kind of hyper-focused or under-focused, I guess you could say, and having a system that would help somebody shift their attention when they need to, because naturally it's not triggering, I guess you could say, itself, that part of the brain on its own. So if somebody is hyper-focused on a particular thing and you have a device that can say something to you to help you shift your focus, that could be very helpful, and it would create a lot more opportunities for independence. Because right now, the people that are experiencing that, they're reliant on other people to tell them, and if those other people don't tell them, they can get stuck, and especially for, I think, adults on the spectrum, things related to employment, that could be really helpful. I could see it just for that alone, the attention shifting and that built-in prompting, basically.
So you can have an employment list almost, your functions, your roles, and if you get distracted, they can maybe bring you back.
That would be huge. For some of the clients that I work with, that's like their main difficulty in the employment situation that impedes them from either from working or from getting a better job that they really want to have, and just having that ability that is under your control, that's part of you. I think it also will increase confidence because, having this difficulty attention shifting, it's not intentional. Some people might look at someone on the spectrum and say, well, they just want to look at this, or they don't care about this. But if their brain's not letting them attention shift, and you have something that can help them to be successful, that's going to boost their confidence. And they're not going to feel like I need therapy all the time and I need people telling me what to do all the time. If it was something customized like that, I could see that really building.
And because it's a connected device, because it has internet access and because it has access to networks, it could also allow some degree of management where maybe someone who's helping them or managing them could insert tasks into their list of tasks without having to directly come and have a conversation that might stress them out, so that maybe someone is approaching their job just by, I check my glass and it tells me what the next thing I need to do is. And so then if the manager has another thing to add to their list, they can see what's done, what's not done, and add things into it that way. So because it's connected, it's a lot more than just a simple checklist or just a simple, dumb device that just sits there and, doesn't connect or integrate with other systems.
So that could be helpful too. I mean, on that note, so we have, I could see this being very helpful in the attention shifting area. And I can see a couple other things. One being just that organizational system. A lot of the people I work with, it's very hard for them to organize their thoughts and kind of have, create these mental folders for things. And, having a system that can help you to stay organized, again, just increases the quality of life and your confidence and your independence. Having the management system. I mean, honestly, I could probably use that for myself, the management system. But particularly for people who have difficulty with that. I would like to see it go even further, to organize, being able to take photos and have videos organizing personal experiences to help to solve more relational issues. What did I do last time when this happened? and being able to, I would love to see it evolve into something like that at some point. But I think it's exciting to know that there's a foundation that people can build on to help people on the spectrum with different areas that are difficult for them.
Well, I mean, in a sort of very real sense, what you're carrying with you is artificial memory, artificial sight, and artificial hearing. So it's two of our primary senses for interacting with the world, sight and sound, and memory and processing to compute it. So a lot of these problems, almost everything that could be done to help someone is now a programming problem, that you just need a programmer clever enough to figure out a way to integrate these inputs into something useful. For example, just in other useful areas, recently someone figured out how you could take a normal web camera, one on any computer, and use it to tell someone's pulse. That if you adjust the amount of color in the picture so that you lighten the amount of color the right amount, you could actually see the blood moving in and out of the face as the pulse happened, that it was actually possible with most web cameras. So glass has what is essentially a web camera. So imagine a piece of software on glass that looks at who you're talking to and lets you know when their pulse elevates, when their pulse increases. And then someone on the autism spectrum who may not be able to read body language might receive a reminder saying, this person is now more engaged than they were before. That something, that something has elevated their affect. Now, this could be good, they could be interested or excited, or this could be bad, they could be angry. But a lot of times, someone on the autism spectrum can figure out if they're upset or happy. They just don't know when to check for that. They don't have that process that says something has changed, I should reevaluate the situation. And glass could provide them that cue. So they're using their own skills, but glass gives them the prompt, that little bit of information that says, hey, you should re-examine your thought process here because something has changed. So there's a lot of subtle ways where a good application for glass could really provide something that helps someone on the spectrum identify learning opportunities, where it's not necessarily doing things for them, but taking a step towards, mitigating their weaknesses and helping them use their own skills better.
Well, I was just thinking, though, when you say that is exactly, such an important thing is not necessarily doing it for them, but giving them tools to do it for themselves. And even if that, you're talking about, okay, there's this affect change that glass is able to pick up, the reminder could be, okay, it's time to stop and study, or stop and observe, or stop and ask questions, or, so not necessarily telling the person what to do, but what process to employ, what thinking process to employ. I could see that being very helpful.
Also, as you're saying this, I won't say it, but neurolinguistic.
You won't say what you just said.
It's the pulse increases, so it signals you that something changed internally in the other person.
Yeah.
But which means there's some nonverbal cues, and maybe it could even go further. Like the pulse increase also led to color shift changes, muscle tone changes, some type of movement, nonverbal movement. So not only they know something changed, but maybe next time they'll look for the change along with the pulse.
Well,
they'll
see
something.
Therapeutic tool in that even if they can record some of their interactions and go back at the end of the day with a therapist or a friend or a family member, say, okay, this is what my interaction was, and going back and reviewing it and learning from a real life situation. Because now a lot of times things like that are taught in in ways that aren't really very natural. Pictures, and there's still photos. It's not a good example of the flow of an interaction. So having something, a real life something that you can document and use for learning later is another potentially great, piece of it.
For everyone. On the spectrum, not on the spectrum. This is...
Well, and that's true. A lot of these applications are ones that could help most people. Like, just reminders when you're at the grocery store that your milk might be bad, or that, you might be out of milk, or other things. Anyone benefits from that. But a lot of times, the real challenge that people on the autism spectrum have is that they just have a significant enough weakness in some of these areas that it then becomes an impediment to everyday life rather than just being something that you can overcome on your own.
And let's take a quick break, and we'll talk about how this might give hope to people on the spectrum psychologically. Hope to the parents, may make a difference in how they interact with people on the spectrum. This is Understanding Autism, every second Monday and Tuesday from 3 to 4 at the Breakthrough Thinking Broadcasting Network. We'll be right back. And welcome back again. You're listening to Breakthrough Thinking live at the Regis Suites in Phoenix, Arizona. It's the second Monday and Tuesday of each month from 3 to 4. It is Understanding Autism, and starring Paul Alden and Kimberly Isaac. Now, we've been talking about Google Glass, a most amazing technology, we'll call it, that is worn as like a glass, and you can see all sorts of things you can see on a computer screen.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating. Well, we have emails that we want to answer. One is Tricia from San Diego, who writes, or asks, I should say, when you're driving, in your opinion, Paul, could this be a distraction, having the Google Glass and you're seeing the screen pop up, for people on the spectrum versus non-spectrum? What's a tendency there? Maybe, Kim, you could chime in.
Yeah, Kim may be better for on-spectrum and off-spectrum, but I would say in average use, it's less distracting than using a cell phone for navigation or using a in-dash or on-dashboard navigation, because since it's within your point of view and it's transparent, you can actually tilt your head slightly forward, and the overlay allows you to see it and the road at the same time without any difficulties. So you can use it, and most of the time it's just reading directions to you. Most of the time you shouldn't even need to look at the screen. It'll tell you in a quarter mile, turn right. And then when you get close, it'll say, turn right here. So most of the time you won't need to look at the directions. It'll be reading the directions to you, and the screen will be off, or if it's on, you won't even notice it. So I think on average, it's less distracting than any other navigation means we have so far. In terms of whether it's likely to be more or less distracting if you're on the spectrum, I don't really know about that.
Well, I think it varies. I think for some people it would be great, and others, their distractibility is way too high, and it could pose a problem. So I think.
Well, I'm guessing for those, any navigation is probably dangerous. So
I think it really depends. Everybody's so different on or off the spectrum, and just really knowing yourself and giving, maybe having some kind of assessment even that Google offers. Before you decide to use these when driving, make sure you ask yourself these questions or something. But I have to say, just playing a little bit around with the glass, my feeling for myself is that I would have to get really comfortable with it out of the car before driving with it.
And I would recommend that, is just get to the point where you don't notice it before you start driving with it. But that actually happens really quickly. It's surprisingly, just if you just wear it, I wear it every time I go out of my house now. There's not much use for it when you're at a computer, because really it sort of overlaps. But what it does is when you're doing anything else, it provides you access to information more quickly. And you get used to it surprisingly quickly. I found that I'll just tilt my head back to see the time rather than looking at my watch or digging out my cell phone, because it shows me the time.
Can I say something funny about that, the head tilt?
Yeah.
Okay. I just have to say, it's very interesting. So when I first started, seeing Paul with his Google Glass, he was doing these, head-jerking moments with his head to do glass, and his eyes were really focused. And I, honestly, if I didn't know what glass was, I would think he's having a seizure.
You did mention that to me, yeah.
There's all these heads. I mean, it's a funny thing.
Yeah, it's sort of an odd motion. I'm not sure that's the best. Honestly, if I were designing it, I would have made it a tilt down rather than a tilt up, because I find that's easier for me to do. But it's possible Google will make it easier to customize or something.
All of a sudden he'd be like,
yeah.
I saw it differently. When you tilted your head, I thought you were saying, hey, what's up?
Yeah, the head tilt.
Yeah, it was good. Now, if you tilt down, it's like bowing.
But we have another question. We have a text question.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did
we answer that question?
Did we? I think we did.
Okay.
I think we did.
Okay, good. Well, we have Sandra in Arizona who is asking, how durable are the glasses? They look very delicate in the pictures I've seen.
I haven't personally tested it, but everything I've heard suggests they're very, very durable. They're so incredibly light that if they're dropped or kicked around, there's just not much momentum to it. The frame, the metal parts are made of titanium, so they spring back very quickly. They're very flexible. They're very light. The plastic and the prism display are good quality. The entire thing is designed to be the kind of thing that you just toss in a bag and go. They give you a little baggie with a sort of hard shell at the end to protect it, so that if you're traveling with it or whatever, you can put it in the bag. And other than that, I remember one technology blogger, I think it's Robert Scoble, he took his in the shower because he told Google when he got it, if I got Glass, I'm never taking it off. So one of the first things he did is took a picture of himself in the shower wearing Google Glass, and it survived the shower. They're water resistant. They're not waterproof, but they'll handle rain and basic splashes without any real problems. So they're designed to be as durable as any other piece of electronics that you'd be carrying around with you from day to day.
Well, I have another funny. I'll just share it. We're adding some comedy to the show, but it's actually true comedy. When I first saw Paul with the Google Glass, I wanted to try them so badly, but I was afraid to touch them.
Yeah, she was treating them with like kid gloves.
No,
Like, just put them on.
No, I made him put them on me because I was so afraid. But then the funny thing is, I'm like, no, you take them off, put them on. And then when he took them, he was just like not throwing them around disrespectfully, but he was so comfortable with it. What it reminds me of is like when I got my new laptop, how you're like really careful with it at first, and after, it's just fine. It kind of reminds me of the same thing. When I have played with them, they didn't seem that fragile once you got comfortable with them. When you first look at them, you're kind of being extra careful. But it was funny because I made him put them on and then take them
But
off.
the thing is that Google is working with different companies to design different variants of it. There's going to be ones that are built into prescription glasses frames, so you can get them with prescription lenses. The expectation is they'll probably be like sports ones that are built into maybe snowboarding goggles that protect your eyes from the reflections, or maybe for swimmers or race car drivers or whatever. So the assumption is that there'll be different variants of it, and obviously some of those will be much more durable. If there's one that's designed for wearing during a soccer game, that's probably going to be a lot more durable than one that's designed to be a fashion accessory. So I'm sure that there'll be a wide range of durability, but the Explorer Edition here is designed to mix a good degree of durability with being very light, being low impact in terms of noticing it's on your head. So it's a good mix, and I'd say it's pretty durable.
Now, Kim, any other emails or texts?
Well, let me check really quick. Let's see what we've answered. Distractibility.
Yeah.
When driving. The durability. And we actually do have another question. Graham H. from Wisconsin. And this is for Paul. Being on the spectrum, are you finding that using the Google Glass is making your life easier?
I would say at the moment, no, because a lot of what I want it for is to set reminders for myself. I think of a lot of things, and then I forget about them. And a lot of them are keeping track of stuff. And I find myself there's an application on my phone called Google Now, which lets me set reminders. And while Glass has a lot of Google Now's functionality, including a Google Now app, the reminders part of it is not part of Glass yet. And as soon as that is, I think that it will be a lot more helpful for me just there. But like I've talked about, a lot of the apps that I think would be helpful are sort of more specialized than the general purpose stuff. I mean, the email and everything, those are great. And I find it really convenient, but I don't find it convenient in the sense of convenient to my autism, but just in convenience to anybody. And it's like, I was talking about this earlier, is that I can see other apps, maybe you're hearing impaired. And Glass has a computer in its own storage, so maybe you download the subtitles for a movie, and you go to that movie with your friends who can all hear fine. So you're not going to a special showing that includes subtitles. But when you get to the start of the movie, it flashes a code on the screen, and you take a picture of that with Glass or whatever your device is as more of them become available. And then that syncs up the time, and you get subtitles personally for you, maybe even in a different language if you're going to a movie that's not in your native tongue. And so you can have subtitles where the people next to you aren't distracted by you staring down at your cell phone or something like that. And they're sort of overlaid so you can keep your eyes focused on the screen. And that's the sort of thing where there are functions of it right now that are good for everyone. And it's a really helpful device. I find myself using it a lot, getting directions or looking things up or just checking to and responding to emails while I'm out. But the functions that would really help with autism, I think, are going to depend on when Google really opens it up and lets the programmers start getting to it. And that's supposed to be soon, but it's that soon in finger quotes where you don't know how soon that really is.
Let me ask you, what do you think the most outrageous possibility is on Google Glass? I came up with something that could be interesting. Imagine two people just met. One only speaks English, the other French. Mm-hmm. They both have Google Glass. As they speak, it converts into their own language.
Now, I think
possible?
Technologically, yes. We need faster and more reliable internet.
But isn't that interesting?
That Yeah, no, I think glass honestly would be bad for it. It's designed not to cover your ears. In that situation, you'd want something that covers your ears because you wouldn't want to hear what they're saying. You'd want to hear the translation of it. And that's sort of the difference between Google Glass and augmented reality. There's a researcher out there, and I can't remember his name right now, but he's been wearing glasses that cover one or both eyes for several decades now that are basically a computer screen. And he calls it, was it mediated reality? What it does is it shows him what he would be seeing with additional information in it. So it might show him street names and stuff printed on the road, so that what he's seeing is more than what a normal person sees. He might be able to shift his vision into infrared or ultraviolet, things that we can't do, because he's seeing the entire world through a screen every day of his life. And so that's the kind of thing that's for that kind of enhanced functionality where you'll hear every language anyone speaks to in English. That's something we can do, but that's not really what glass is for. Glass is for supplementing the kind of things we do from day to day rather than overlaying and replacing them. So it adds on to what you naturally expect to be able to have access to. So I think that what you're talking about is a different technology, and one that would be great, but isn't really what glass is doing. And I think that that's good, that glass fills one role and that fills another that we'll talk about in the future. In 10 years, 5 years, we'll be talking about, well, what next? Glass is cool, but what can we do more?
There are so many possibilities.
Oh, no, it's
or even my iPhone, just when I think I found like the greatest apps, one day something amazing will come along, and I think that's the evolution of technology, right? Paul's always talking about this stuff. It's very interesting. I never think about these things, but what you're always telling me too is like, 15 years ago, would we have ever imagined that we would have this? Or, it's like, wow, what? There's so many great things in the works that, it's going to be exciting to see over the decades how things evolve.
I got one. You thought that last one was outrageous? How about this one? You have Google Glass. Something happens that could be either traumatic or some event that happens, and Google Glass knows how to interpret the most empowering interpretation of that event. If that wasn't enough, up pops Tony Robbins with the motivational talk. Now, really, think about that. No, if you really think about it deeply,
I need to think about it.
We have a vision, and we filter our interpretation through,
You mean reading the brainwaves? Is that what you're saying?
Not reading the brainwaves, but through our beliefs, our values, our cumulative experiences.
Like if we inputted that information into glass and just saying, hey, wait a minute,
most
this
empowering.
this isn't in line with your values.
I think that'd be amazing.
Actually, that would be great.
Negativity, au revoir. That's right.
Well, and again, like I said, it's going to depend a lot on the programmers and what they decide to do with it. Like I said, glass has sight, glass has hearing, glass can show you something, glass can speak to you, glass has tilt controls where it can tell when your head is tilted. So imagine that you're wearing glass and it suddenly detects that it went from being horizontal like normal to vertical where it's tilted on its side, and it included a sharp fall and a sudden stop. Maybe glass could make a 911 call on your behalf if you last in that position more than 10 seconds. Or, it waits and sees if you pick yourself up. It'll say, is this an emergency? And if you don't respond in 10 seconds, then it, makes an emergency call for you or something. So glass, just the various sensors in glass could lead to a whole range of software and applications that could help people with different conditions. We know that it can detect an eye blink, and we don't know what else it can detect about your eye, but someone wrote an app to just show off that you could wink, and a solid wink would take a picture with it. But if it can detect an eye wink, it's possible that, someone who can't communicate but can blink their eye could blink out Morse code with it and use it as, just... So there are a lot of devices out there where we've got very specialized devices. You've got a lot of devices. There's a device that they're working on for the blind that will use a camera to scan the environment and produce different sound waves in your ear based on how far away things are and what's in front of you. And while you can use specialized hardware for that, that's the kind of thing that one could possibly develop for glass. So there's a lot of things where glass is a consumer version of very specialized hardware that helps people with certain disabilities, where, again, it's all going to boil down to what clever programmers do with the device.
Well, this is incredible. It's wide open. Talking about, people say, hey, there's, what else is there left to do, and what the future is like. This one product can bring about a whole new industry, couldn't it?
It really could. The whole, just the idea of ubiquitous and wearable computer, it changes, hopefully, how we think about our access to computing, because it no longer becomes something where we ask it for something and it never replies. It's no longer reactive, but proactive. It's providing information for us. It's looking for opportunities to help us with what we want it to help us with. And obviously, there's going to be the question of, what's the line between being helpful and being annoying? Is it going to be, chirping in my ear all the time? But that's, again, a problem for programmers, that eventually we're going to come to a balance where we feel like our devices, our electronics around us are providing information for us. Maybe your microwave is wired into the whole network, and when you're upstairs in the other room and you can't hear it, you get a message pop up in your glass telling you your popcorn's done. Who knows? Even simple things like that, they make our life easier in subtle ways.
And you can, of course, since they have security monitoring devices, you can look and visually see your rooms.
Oh, yeah, you could check the cameras at your house while you're out.
Through the Google Glass.
Yeah.
That is incredible. I just really can't believe it. But phenomenal. Now, you're going to be here tomorrow. You're going to talk about Google Glass more? You got a special guest?
We have a special guest tomorrow, Caitlin Watson, and she's going to talk about applied behavior analysis. People commonly refer to it as ABA. It's a behavioral kind of therapy that is used for people on the autism spectrum.
And that'll be 3 to 4 Pacific Coast time. The game show?
Yeah, I'll be here at 2.
The game show?
People of Games.
People of Games.
Yeah. And we'll have 1 or 2 of the people who run Game Collab. It's a collaboration space here in Phoenix, Arizona, where indie developers can rent time to work on their projects, or and they put on activities where people can come and meet other local indie developers and network and stuff. So they're really working to try to grow the local community of independent game developers. So I'll be talking with them tomorrow.
Fantastic. Wow, great show tomorrow. Paul Loudon, thank you so much. What an enlightening experience. Kim Isaac, of course, Understanding Autism. If you want to hear a replay of the show, right now at least, until the website gets cooking on Understanding Autism, you can go to breakradioshow.com.
And please do check out our website at understanding-autism.info. We'd love to get some discussions going. We've got some blog posts up, and we'll get the episodes up as soon as we can.
And thank you to all the people that emailed. We'll see everyone tomorrow, 3 to 4. Signing off.